Yo, 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 it's your boy Nikki Duce, a.k.a. Mr. Disrespectful, and you now tuned in to No Disrespect.
What's happening, y'all? You already know who it is. Tell my baby I'm back in town. Hey, I'm in my fifth, sixth home city, you know what I'm saying?
I'm about to say, yeah,
I fuck with New York, but I ain't been here enough to, call it really crowning or anything like that.
Yeah, this
my
is
second
a
home.
special episode. We on the road, you know what I'm saying? We doing a short tour. We in New York City, specifically Brooklyn. You know, shout out to BK.
We got with us though.
Hey, we got a special guest. This is a special
Something
episode.
special.
Not only are we in New York City, but we got one half of the dynamic duo, Comfy Cozy from the Run the Tape podcast.
New York City, what the fuck is up? Atlanta, what the fuck was up? Yo,
hey,
it's time to talk my shit.
Talk that talk.
It's time to talk that shit, man. One half. Run the Tape podcast. Uchechi's gonna be here in a little bit. You know, we gotta form Voltron on these niggas.
Exactly.
Make it work. It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
know
man. Let everybody know like what y'all about. You know where you been, where you going.
Run the Tape podcast. We've been recording for the last year and some change. We like to consider ourselves one of New York's premier podcasts dedicated to music discovery within the hip hop landscape. We're all about uplifting people of color. I mean, we ain't got no beef with white people, but we also want to make sure that our people are elevated, our talent is elevated.
Pro-black.
Everything, all of that. So everything that we're involved in is always brown. You feel me? I like my liquor brown. I like my podcast brown.
Hey,
I hear you.
So, yeah, that's what we do, man. Check us out, www.runthetape.com. Connect with us on social media. Run the Tape Pod, man. We here.
One of my favorite podcasts to listen to every week.
That.
You know, they always... I feel like we in sync. Every time I say something, they say it. You know what I'm saying? Or I think of something, they say it. So, we just going to, break it down and, chop it up with them. This episode I wanted to dedicate, since we got the Run the Tape podcast, dedicated talking about hip-hop and the music landscape as far as where we are now and where we're going. But I want to do it in a little unique way. The game of Operation? Where you know take the little things out of the white man or whatever.
Right.
I want to break hip hop down in that way, the anatomy of hip hop.
Okay.
So, but before we get into the the descriptions and the details of it, I want to just throw this question out, just a softball question. How do you classify a classic album when it comes to hip hop?
For me, it's really all about impact, and not just in the moment impact. It's about the stories that I got from that project. We sometimes, I always use Nipsey Hussle Victory Lap. When I first heard it, I was like, yo, this shit is a classic album, right? But I didn't necessarily feel comfortable saying it in a public setting because you need time. Mm-hmm. You need to give it time, right? And then once my constituents and, my people basically was like, nah, that album is fire, I felt like we can put it on the shelf, but we can't stamp it yet.
Yeah.
Give it a year or two. If it's still something that I put on rotation, then I'll feel better about it. I just feel like there needs to be minimums. Mm-hmm. Minimums, it needs to be at least 5 years.
5 years.
5 years before you can even really start claiming it. This shit is a classic ass project. So there's certain albums that I listened to that came out 2017. Pusha T, My Name Is My Name. That came out 2013. That's a classic project for me. And also, I also divided by a classic project for me and a classic project in general. So
that's interesting. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if there's an album that comes out, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to feel the same way, right? Critically acclaimed means that it's acclaimed in public. But you can also have projects that are acclaimed in private. Albums that speak to you, right? So you can say Nas Illmatic is a classic album in public. But then let's say you find Nostradamus to be a classic album for you. Right? Now, you're not comfortable enough to say that out loud. Because
nobody is.
Nobody, right. But there are people that have that. There are people that say, yo, this album, it spoke to me specifically. The content spoke to me specifically. Most people wouldn't say that Pusha T, My Name Is My Name is a classic album in public, right? It's a dope-ass album. It's an amazing-ass album. But for me, there's certain stories behind the songs that I tune into. So when I think about that album, it represents a special place, in my life during that time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's just what it is. I mean, you look at albums that are rap albums of the year, and you just like to look at how that album held up to the albums that came after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did it have the ability to stay strong consistently year in, year out, were people continuing to talk about it? Were the themes consistent across the board? Was there something that you can really look at and be like, yo, this album is fucking fire, and continue to feel that way? So like Schoolboy Q, the name of that album he just dropped,
Blank Face.
Now, that's not a classic album in public, but for me,
For you, it was.
it's an album that I have on rotation.
I'm shocked.
And that's what I was about to
Crazy.
ask you. I was like, but Swap, before you go to your description of classic album, what is a classic album that you can that you wholeheartedly feel like you could scream out loud in New York and nobody's gonna yell at you? And what is the classic album to you that's like,
Me,
that's me?
Tyler the Creator, Flower Boy. Me.
Okay. Fair enough.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And it's an album that, and this is a great point, because Tyler made a classic ass album, but people don't feel comfortable enough to say that they support
I think you're right.
it.
I think you're right.
Like, people closet fuck with Tyler, but then in public,
Heavily.
they be like, nah, like, this nigga be talking this wild shit. But he's really toned down that content.
He toned down
He toned down a lot of content since he came out.
Yeah.
But it started with Cherry Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
You saw a shift in his content. He was still kind of on his, like, goblin shit, but you began to see a maturity, because I think just over the years, wisdom and just fame, it just kind of morphed, like his subject matter a little bit
And he
more.
became a better artist as time has progressed.
Absolutely.
Because I think the transition started at Wolf, in my opinion, and I think that was right before Cherry Bomb. Because I'm one of the closeted like Tyler the Creator fans, and I've liked his progression and he made it at the right time, especially during these times. He couldn't talk about some of that subject matter that he did early on.
Yeah, I think he really took advantage. Like, he was one of the pioneers when it came to like that marketing scheme of, he did what it took to get noticed and get in the public eye, in my opinion, because I don't necessarily think like what he's making now is too off center from what he's always been wanting to make. But he knew that wasn't what was going to get him on the platform he is now. That wasn't going to get him on this plateau. He had to do something a little extra, and he rolled with a gang of niggas that was extra as fuck anyway. So it didn't take that much to take that step and kind of make that Odd Future brand. But then once he kind of was able to separate himself, now he's been making the shit that we've been hearing. And you're right. I think there's a lot of niggas who are on the low fuck with just the vibe he gives on the track. Like,
Right.
He produces his own shit, writes his own shit. Hell of a writer. I think he got bars.
He has amazing bars.
Yeah.
Amazing bars.
And people sleep on the shit. Like,
because they're caught up in his persona.
Exactly.
The persona he's a turnoff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you don't give people the chance. Like, there have been women that I've said, yo, Tyler the Creator. People always ask me about my opinions, and then when I give them to them, they're like, nah. I'm like, but you asked me for my
Exactly.
opinion.
Yeah.
Like, so if you're gonna ask me what my opinion is, then you have to trust. You have to trust what I'm saying.
Digest it at
You have
least.
to digest it. At least digest it.
Yeah.
So, but in public, I mean, Good Kid, Mad City. Like,
Yeah,
you say Good Kid, Mad City. Like,
nobody's
I don't
gonna
know.
bother you. Yeah.
No one's gonna bother you. Everyone's like, oh, all right, like, cool, whatever. But I feel like, your ability to digest music is kind of straying away from those normals. J. Cole, normal. Kanye, normal. Kendrick, normal. Like, get out of that. Like, get out of that space. Don't continue to just like listen to the same ass people all the time. You feel me? So
So what's your
if I
classic?
had to answer that same question, public space, classic would be Graduation.
facts. Graduation is a fucking
Yeah, ain't no
classic
one gonna
album,
say
son.
shit to you if you're saying that, and that goes down in one of my tops. Personally, probably the top classic for me is Lupe Fiasco's The Cool.
Oh, facts.
Yeah.
Nah, that's
Nobody will. I don't think
Yeah.
nobody will.
Even in public, y'all don't.
nah, in
Yeah.
public,
I don't
like,
know.
you-
People don't
nah,
be
public,
shedding
you
respect.
straight. If you went further in his catalog,
Yes.
maybe.
Yes.
Like, if you were to say like Tetsu on Youth,
Tattoo on Youth is another one.
Fire, right?
I say it's a classic in my eyes.
his lyricism on that shit is fucking like
Come on.
top tier.
I
Like,
honestly think
somewhere else.
he has not topped himself since his first two albums. Like,
He's touched it with Tattoo on Youth.
because to me, The Cool may be one of the 5 to 8 best albums of the last 20 years.
And I agree.
Okay.
I concur.
And everything he's dropped since then, I feel like hasn't reached that plateau, or like gotten to that. Maybe bars wise, but like holistically, song, bars, execution, theme, like the shit that he, started off with, the reason why you love Lupe.
Yeah.
I feel like he hasn't gotten there yet, or has been back to that
Well,
level.
The Cool was a highly conceptual album from Lupe. And he didn't. That wasn't the same thing with Food and Liquor or a few albums after that he's released since then. Obviously, I wasn't the biggest fan on Lasers. Even Food and Liquor 2, I feel like it wasn't a great encore to Food and Liquor, the first one. But he did release another conceptual album that when y'all started listening through to it, the shit started hitting me. It was the Drogas Wave. It's one of the greatest.
Drogas Wave.
When you talk about conceptual albums like that have a theme, they have a purpose, and the artist is dedicated to expressing that story. He's done it in that album, and people are sleeping on the shit.
He's just the type of artist that lives and dies by those themes.
Yeah,
right. Like Drogas Waves, like he has taken that album, he's taken that concept, and he's driven it continuously. Right. Since Lasers, he hasn't missed. He has not released a whack album. Lasers was trash.
Yeah,
but that wasn't like. But
that was business.
That's an asterisk. Like that's one of those like throwaways. Whatever.
He almost let us know as fans, like this is not me. Like I'm releasing this like because I got quotas.
I got quotas to make. Exactly.
Do you take that as like when artists say that? Because I feel like every artist has said that at one point. Like this album isn't for me, or even the opposite. Like I made this album for me. Do you take those excuses from those artists or the artists that you grew up loving, and then you be like, well, what happened right here? Why is this situation like that?
Well, it depends on the artist. Like if somebody like Jay came out and said, this album isn't for me. I'm like, nigga, like you own your power. Mm-hmm. Like there's nobody above you telling you what to do. But there are artists where you see manipulation, where you can see a dilution in their vibe. Like look at like Lil Uzi Vert. Like look at what he's going through right now. When artists go through things like that, look at what Wayne went through. When artists go through things like that, it's kind of like, whoa, like so the music is going to suffer.
Are you expecting like better out of Uzi from this situation? Or are you giving him a pass on this next album that's about to drop?
Yeah, whatever drops next, I'm not going to have any expectations. In general, I have no expectations of Lil Uzi Vert. But when it comes to this particular project, I mean, he really hit the nail on the head with his last one.
The Love Is Rage, too.
Love Is Rage. Mm-hmm. And I respect that. I respect that project. It's not really my cup of tea, but I can respect it. And when he comes out with this new one, I'm going to say, okay, I'm just going to listen with no expectations. I'm not going to be like, yo, you don't got this, and you don't got no bangers and shit like that. We'll see what happens.
Suave, what is your classification for a classic album? What are the things? What kind of shit do you need?
Let me look at my list here, cause I had to actually think about it, cause I'm quick. I'm one of them niggas who's quick to be like, oh, this shit's a classic. Like if I feel it in my spirit, like
there's nothing wrong with that.
I can feel myself listening to this months down the line, and I just labeled it a classic prematurely. I'll even admit it. Like sometimes I'll do it prematurely, but really for me, it has just 4 components. First, like you was even saying, has to have an impact. Has to have a cultural impact to me, like whether like other artists kind of resonate with that, or maybe they even went outside the box and now you see other artists doing the same wave, or whether it's speaking on a time and a period of time what that is important to us, like that maybe we don't even have a lot of insight on, or get to hear it in more of an expressive way that music does for you, kind of like the Kendrick Lamar's what was it?
To Pimp a Butterfly?
To Pimp a Butterfly, exactly. Yeah, it was kind of speaking on something that we don't usually get to hear from that perspective, especially mixing his styles and in the genres he likes to mix with, like jazz and his hip hop. He kind of blended that shit together. It has to have replayability, obviously. I got to be listening to the shit. At very least, you said 5 years. I got to say at least until your next project, right? If you release an album and that shit is still rocking until the release of your next album or your next project, I'm still keeping that one in the realms of considering it a classic. And I know I even kind of murmured this to you earlier, and you didn't necessarily agree, but it has to have either one or the other, great features or great cosigns. It has to be acknowledged by
The peers.
The peers, the people who are your competition. Like, if your best competition is saying like, oh, this is shitty to me, like that's one thing. But if all your peers is like not even recognizing that you dropped some shit or recognizing the talent or what you brought to the table, that's gonna make me think, because we've nominated these people to speak for us to some extent. Like, these motherfuckers is big and they got this platform for a reason. We trust what they've put out, and so obviously we trust what their opinion is to a certain extent on how they're intaking this music. So I know I can be biased with a lot of artists. Like, I'll think of art, like, it's not always easy for me to take a step back from Lupe because he's one of my favorites. So I do think a lot of the shit he drops is gold. But if I'm not seeing a lot of recognition and a lot of resignation, I got to second think like, damn, is it as good as I'm thinking? Let me maybe take a step back. Let me get outside of myself for a second. So I do think it has to have great features and or cosigns. I would have just stayed with features, but I've heard artists like J. Cole, not have no features. I've heard plenty of projects that aren't feature heavy, and I still am rocking them shits, and they check off every other box. So a cosign at least. Like, can I get a cosign at least? And then lastly, me being an artist and making music, somewhere in it has to push me as an artist. Like, I have to look at this project and say, like, not only was I not expecting that out of him, but I wasn't expecting that out of him as that type of artist. He really pushed the envelope with that one, and it makes me think about my craft and where I can expand in my area.
And you don't limit that just to music, right? You limit that to like just creativity in general.
Yeah, creativity in general, obviously. When I'm talking about a classic album, it's mainly music, but yeah, a lot of the persona, their style, just the way they conduct themselves, that does come into play too. So it has to push me in that sense. Mm-hmm. Since I am an artist, and I kind of look at it in a different perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of niggas that just got bars, so you can give that all day, but how are you doing it? How are you presenting that to me? Does it challenge me?
I get you. For me personally, it's really just 4 things, and we all kind of have some of the same classifications for it, but to me it's just impact, longevity, majority consensus. So like a lot of, like you were mentioning earlier, Cozy, like it has to be, and you even said it, Swap, too, like it has to be recognized by a lot of people, like not only peers but the public too. And then my last one is genre defining quality. Like, to me, when you mention Good Kid, Mad City, every hip hop fan will say this is this is what hip hop represents. This is the sound of hip hop, regardless of any era. This body of work defines the genre, and it doesn't have to be in the same style, but the same feeling, the same, kind of quality of content, production. Like, it's just like, it feels like hip hop. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Those are the main 4 things for me. And as far as a classic album that I doubt anybody will argue against, I think for me it would be I have to think about this a little bit. I mean, I would say Blueprint. Jay-Z's album that kind of like helped introduce Kanye a little bit. I would say that's easily a classic. And I would say the one that I personally like, that I think people may not always recognize as a classic, is Late Registration. I think
that is undeniably a classic.
Well, I don't think it gets the recognition as far as within the trilogy. I feel like it always gets skipped over. People love College Dropout and they love Graduation. They don't really talk about Late Registration in that sense. Or like, they know it's good, but I'm like, to me, between that trilogy, I think that's the best one.
Well, that's tough to say.
And that may be an argument.
If you roll out Late Registration in front of somebody, like you go track for track, I think they start to realize that shit.
Yeah.
But in totality, you're right. I think people do overlook that. But damn, at the same time, I mean, I'm a Kanye fan my damn self, so I don't look over anything he does. Like, I've seen a lot of his movements. He's been experimental. He's been a pioneer of the genre for a while now.
Which album?
The Blue Carpet Treatment. I think that's the last album that Snoop Dogg really gave where he was like spitting, like, and like the storytelling was great. He had Nate Dogg on there, of course. I think he has a record on there called Think About It. I'm like, wow, this is Snoop, rapping.
Yes, Snoop had a lot of like people act like he came out with with was Doggy Style,
Yeah,
and like that was it.
exactly.
Like he came out with a lot of like trash albums. Like, he came out with a lot of like, but Blue Carpet Treatment is like another like highlight.
It's
like,
a tick. I
I
think it's a tick.
It's definitely a tick.
And it may not be a classic to everybody, like
But
I
it's
said,
a classic.
But it's to
That's
me
what I'm saying.
because it's like
To you.
it reminded me. To me, it was like a reintroduction to like him as far as a rapper. Like, cause to me, I feel like since he's been in rap for so long that he goes everywhere. You know, he just tries to challenge himself, whether it's musically or business wise or just collaboratively. Like
Snoop Lion.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
or he just gets bored. I don't know yet, bro. I don't know if this is a challenge to himself or if he's just honestly bored. This nigga does not have shit else to do.
Now he has a lot to do.
And do interviews.
Yeah.
And it's synonymous. They go hand in hand at this point.
Blue Carpet, that's
my
your private.
Yeah,
okay.
Blue Carpet Treatment.
Okay. That's the first time I've ever heard that. And that's not
which is why we sharing it now, you know. So let's just get into the shits, all right? With this game of hip hop operation, I'm gonna start with the backbone. What is the foundation of hip hop built on? Question for everybody.
I believe that the foundation is built on the suffering of people in the community. Genuinely, I think that some of the most iconic bodies of work always tell stories of struggle, strife, overcoming obstacles, beating all the odds. And I just feel like, and if you have all of these iconic works echoing the same sentiments, right? Whether it be Nipsey, Kendrick, Cole, Hove, Big, Pop, they're all saying the same things. Just in more articulate, intricate ways, right? In more, current ways, but the content is still the same. I believe that is really built on the experience of the black person in America. I mean, you can say even our forefathers. Go back and listen to what they were rapping about in the 80s. They were rapping about violence, drugs, financial disparity between them and white people, right? It's the same shit now. And that's how I know that really when you take our music, and it's an expression of that, black music is always an expression of struggle. It doesn't matter what genre. Blues, soul, country, doesn't matter. The same topics are visited because it's really an expression of one's experience in their lives. Hip hop is no different.
What about you, Suave?
Well, damn, I can't really argue a single point you made. I'm not even gonna lie. I more so looked at it though from a perspective of like, who do I visualize and who personifies the backbone in hip hop? And so when I thought about that, I thought about like, all right, what am I seeing these days when I look around? Like I'm seeing these artists like dressing all colorful. I'm seeing the face tattoos. I'm seeing motherfuckers experimenting with their sound, trying to have a different persona than themselves on the mic. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like to a certain extent, a lot of these artists are trying to have that alter ego. And who was like the pioneers of that shit? First comes to mind Wayne. You already know Wayne was the first motherfucker rocking. Wayne came up with the word bling. So any niggas jeweled out from that point on, bro, I'm considering them under Wayne's tutelage.
All right, you might.
Nigga with face tats.
I give you that.
Niggas who experiment as much as Wayne. Because I really want to make the blanket statement and say Wayne is the most experimental artist of our time. Period.
Not of our time.
Within
the genre.
Times.
You hyping.
Period.
You hyping.
Period.
He is experimental, but within the genre, it could be argued Kanye too. But I'm not gonna knock you when you say Wayne, but like, I think the combination of both, it's a good two sides of the same coin.
And I want y'all to hear what I just said. Wayne is the most experimental artist of the times. And let's introduce our fourth guest. How you doing?
I'm good.
The queen is here.
I'm sorry.
Nah, you good. You good. I
Hey, you
understand.
all good, right? It's New York. I don't really know how time runs here. So
It's
in Atlanta, I'd at least be a couple 20, 30.
It's actually pretty punctual. I'm just.
You been going through it today.
Yeah.
Mercury,
We understand. Hey, that's why
Mercury today.
we got some Jackie D here for you if you need some.
Right? You want to shine? Want to get in the zone?
A shot. Sure.
Yeah, that's how we do it here.
Just let us know.
Yeah,
Hey,
pick
we
your
here.
poison.
It's definitely gonna be Jack.
So you were saying, so Wayne is the most experimental.
Yeah, so when I think about the backbone of hip hop, I think of who personifies that. Who like has really like given the blueprint for these younger artists, or at least the artists we're seeing now come to fruition. Like when you see the face tats, when you see the bling, like he even came up with the word bling. Like when you see motherfuckers getting as outside of their box as Wayne has gotten, like to the point where you seen Wayne making albums like Reborn. Like he's doing shit.
Yeah,
He
I'm
was
Not a
doing
Human
shit.
Being.
He's been like kind of on that wave to where you're not gonna be able to put Wayne in a box, even though you know he's rap.
Right.
He set that tone for this new wave of artists. Then I feel like at that point, shit, Young Thug has kind of picked up the torch, and everybody hates on that nigga just because of how weird and left field he is. But at the end of
But
the
he's
day, are you
amazing,
not
though.
hearing him in every fucking club? Are you not hearing him on the bangers? Is niggas like Elton John not shouting this nigga out?
Yo.
So we're doing something.
I had Rocket Man on repeat.
Hey,
You feel me?
I can't even lie. Yo,
I fuck
yo,
with Elton
stop
John.
sleep. I wish people did not sleep on that EP. That On the Run EP was like everything, bro.
Yeah, nah,
I'm
people
on
were
the
sleeping
run.
on that
The shit
shit.
that he had with Jaden Smith.
It kinda
yo.
went a little-
I was just about to
little
say
low.
that the song with Jaden Smith. I've been bumping that. What is it called? Sin.
Yeah.
That shit that's a banger. I don't give a fuck what
Facts.
nobody say.
I think once again, like his persona. We
Yes.
talked earlier about people who closet hate on, who closet love Tyler, but will public hate because they kind of like looking like who's gonna co-sign me.
Exactly.
And we're always looking for that. We're all, as human beings, we're always looking for somebody to echo our sentiments. So we'll tend to just say the most popular thing because
Yeah.
we would rather have a room full of co-signers than naysayers, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'd rather preach from a position of comfortability for everybody versus preach from a like even defend themselves. I feel like this because X, Y, and Z. And some people aren't articulate enough to really be able to say like, this is why not. Some people don't want that type of energy.
For me, what I consider the foundation of what hip hop is built on, like the backbone, I would say it's like the honest storytelling, the innovative production, and for me, it's also location. I think you kind of touched on it early. Like hip hop started in New York, the Bronx, and it embodied that city. It embodied the times, the situations, the people. And then when you move past that, when you go further on throughout the decades, you got L.A. with Compton, you got L.A. with or you got just California in general with the Bay Area. Now you got Atlanta. You even got the Midwest with Chicago. Like those areas kind of like build up the whole legacy of hip hop, and it keeps it going. And I think every location speaks for a different person. Like I feel like with Chicago, it speaks more to the youth, or even just someone who's very like who feels like an outsider. So you kind of have like the Chief Keefs of the world who spoke to the youth, but you also have the Kanye who are the backpack, early Kanye I should say, who are the backpack people. Then you have the South of Atlanta with Outkast, who really were the outcasts. Then you got trap music, and then you got New York with the if you make it here, you can make it anywhere. That type of mentality. So it's kind of like it embodies like the black perspective, where it's like everybody has a certain struggle or a certain box that they feel like they may fit in, and they want to be represented. So for me, that's what the foundation of hip hop is. What about?
For me, the foundation of hip hop has always been built on the experience of Black people.
You
Is
said that
what you
right.
said?
Y'all came at a different time, said the same shit.
Really? Yeah.
That's how I know y'all in sync.
Yeah, it's the experience of Black people. It was created, one, to express the Black experience, two, to have fun despite of the things that made the Black experience difficult.
But you guys are still correct, though,
Yeah.
regardless.
I don't know. Yeah.
To give space to Black people, to Black people across the diaspora, because the diaspora as a collective is responsible for hip hop. So like but just Black American and Black America within Black America. the diaspora, Caribbeans, and Black Americans worked together to create the sound that we know of today as hip hop, and created it in a space where they would have to go to kind of get away from reality. This is towards the end. This is, I mean, because hip hop was created towards the end of the 70s. This is the era of like the Black Panthers are kind of being arrested and killed left and right. Housing projects are going up constantly everywhere, but they're not being like really. We're seeing more and more Black people being herded into them. This is also the, like, you know, the riots are starting and stuff like that. And there's music to address it, but then there's also Black people who kind of want to express themselves freely without having to always talk about the current events and the things that are happening. So and then it birthed what we experience today, or laid the foundation. I don't know what the forefathers, all of them, some of them have interesting takes on what hip hop is today, but that's what I would consider to be the foundation of hip hop.
How do you think the forefathers feel?
So,
based off what you heard, or based off how the sentiments they give off?
I think a lot of them take the 2 Chainz route, which is, I don't want to seem like the petty Black man, so I'm going to say that the route of erasure is, or the route of, you know, they kind of ignore the route of erasure, and then they kind of take on like, well, you know, it's growing, we want it to grow, this is what we wanted. Some of them are just flat out like, this is trash, but then they focus that trash talk on the expanding of like, so you know how you have like Lil Uzi, who's like he's different, and he kind of gives a different sound to hip hop, and they're like, nah, that's not what we want, because I think they're still kind of not ready for different Black voices. So I think that it's 2 of those, and I also think that there's maybe some who are like ready to embrace that, the differences in Black voices, but then there's also but they're also like very clear about like having to be careful with the way that it's become so mainstream, and become careful about how execs have more of a hand in it than the actual artists, the actual DJs, etc. like that. So
to go on with that, and I'm really glad that you're here now, because I want to ask you this question. You spoke about how like the forefathers kind of, they've been somewhat vocal, but they don't really go into it. Mm-hmm. Because of their qualifications, they're qualified to speak on hip hop in general. How would you classify someone who can speak on hip hop? Or who do you feel should be able to, and who do you feel the people shouldn't be able to? First
and foremost, you got to be of the Black experience. I do not want to hear from anybody who is white, who is not Black.
So Eminem is out.
He's out. He's
MGK
out.
out.
I'm sure
Macklemore
out. They can all have their opinions. That's great. But
what about Logic? Somebody who's mixed.
Case by case. That's what I was gonna get to. It's case by case for people who are white passing, or like, you know, who are non-Black Latinx, because they are too a part of the experience. Like, we can talk about the Bronx and how a lot of Latin. I mean, the Netflix series. What is it called? The Get Down. The
Get Down.
Yeah, so like it was a great way of showing how also the Latinx community was a part of hip hop as well too. So like, I don't want to exclude them, but we always have to remember that Black people are the originators of hip hop. They are the root, and they are the first and foremost to actually say anything concerning hip hop. I don't know. So that's first. I don't want to say age. Because I don't think that's fair. I think there's a lot of people who are super young who also have a really good take on what's happening in the hip hop world.
Is there a cutoff age? Like, as far as when you said super young, like, let's say a 14-year-old, would you take their, I guess, their mindset or their opinions on hip hop as seriously or as respectful as someone who is like 40, 50, who's, you know, seen it all, or maybe seen a lot more than even you have?
I think I would take the 14-year-olds, what they had to say in regards to the changing landscape. I would consider that they have a better handle on what the social media network is looking like, because I don't. I mean, like, I do, but like I was talking to somebody about cartoons and how the cartoons look wild today. Like, I was like, you don't feel you don't feel overstimulated by these things. Like, the colors look wild. I think I was watching like the PJ Masks or whatever it's called, and the colors are so bright, and I was like, man, I'm definitely an auntie, because like this is so bright. But then the kids are fine with it, and then they are into it. It doesn't seem like crazy to them, but it seems crazy to me. And so I think in that regards, the 14-year-old is better with telling me about the experience of the changing landscape. However, I don't know how much I'd listen to as far as an overall viewpoint on hip hop, because they haven't had the experience within the industry. And that's where you go to an elder, or somebody who has spent the time in the industry. I would also consider how open-minded they are, an older person, because you don't want to talk to somebody who's stuck.
Yeah,
and
that'll happen.
Yeah, and they're still stuck in 1992, and I'm like somebody like it's years. It's like 92 is what, like, somebody, that person's like almost 30 years old. Like, you don't want them to be stuck in that. So what, 92, 28. So, but yeah, so like you don't want to talk to somebody who's stuck in that,
who's stagnant.
Absolutely. But also, I would expect the 14-year-old, if they're going to give some, say, or give some type of opinion on hip hop, I would hope that they are also interested in studying their history and concerning that. And I think that's probably the biggest problem with younger artists. Just not knowing their background.
I don't think they care to.
Are you worried about that? Are y'all worried about like how, as the youth goes, like how much they retain as far as what was before them, or who they should listen to when it comes to like advice? Like, you had the whole Tekashi situation, and you have a situation like Bobby Shmurda. Like, people I think have reached out to them like, hey, this is not, we've been here, we've done that, you should move it this way, and they disregard that, and you see where this situation's end up.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Those are artists who is like, yeah, I don't even listen to Biggie, I ain't listen to no Pac.
Take Lil Yachty. He said Big wasn't top 5 or top anything.
But that's his opinion, right?
Did you ever listen to Biggie? No.
Okay.
So what platform? What platform are you speaking from? What perspective are you speaking from? Vince Staples. Oh, hip hop. And this one to me really summarizes like how we felt. I like Vince Staples. I listen to his music, right? He was the first. He said that, I don't know why we put so much stock in the 90s. I don't know why we call it the golden era. Like,
and it's crazy because Vince Staples, he's like one of the more knowledgeable. Yeah. You feel like he got a good head on his shoulder. He said some wild shit,
which is why when he said it, I was like, I didn't understand it.
Well, I think he was, to play devil's advocate, the perspective I thought he was coming from was we tend to glorify. It's kind of like how people glorify Michael Jordan to bash LeBron James.
I get that.
Like, not like everything people
in
think.
My day.
Yeah, people think Michael Jordan shit at gold and pissed excellence. And it's like, well, there were certain points in times where he wasn't the best. He didn't even win all the time. He was in the league, so it's not like he was 10 for 10 or whatever. He did great things, but his era is like super glorified because they took it globally. Because I think that's what happened in the 90s. Like, it went globally with hip hop.
It's a special, like, he succeeded, right? Yeah. He succeeded in a special period, right? Like, he was the ambassador of really, like, putting your brand at this, like, being a brand, being bigger than what you are.
Exactly.
He was the first real athlete to do that. That's why he holds such a special place. Because of his ability, he was the first to transcend his assigned role. Mm-hmm. You are an athlete. He rose to be a little bit more than that. I mean, like all these artists, all these athletes now are doing the same exact thing, but he was just the first.
Yeah.
So
he was the pioneer.
He was the blueprint.
He's the reason why LeBron can come.
Exactly. So that's why people have a difficult time, because they feel like celebrating, and this is an issue in music as well. Celebrating one means that you have to
forget about the
bash the other.
Yeah, because they both can coexist, right? Mm-hmm. When they can, you can give him his props, and you can give him his just due as well. And
do we really believe that though? Like, I feel like
absolutely not.
In our head we champion somebody, and when you say you champion, everybody else falls under. They fall short.
And I think
by
that
default.
still can happen. Like, if we talking about LeBron and Michael, you can still think Michael is better than LeBron. Like, nobody's going to kill you over that. But you also have to recognize the greatness that is LeBron as well, too. You can't be, like, but, like, if you think that Michael is, like, the top of the line, all right, then. Or Kobe is top of the line. You still have to recognize that even for LeBron to be under them, that there's something about him. And I think that's the same for music. Like, even if you think the 90s were the golden era, you also have to recognize what's coming out of this current era. You can't just...
Or even the 2000s. I feel like the 2000s, they get lost in the sauce a lot.
And that was like 2000s is like that was the era that like
that's my era,
right? Yeah. That's what I remember the most. I remember the 90s, yeah, sure, but like I went to college in the 2000s. Like this is when like the South really had a stronghold on hip hop. They came up and like blew everything out the water. This is when a lot of our backpack artists came up and stuff like that, and kind of showed us a different version of hip hop. This is when a lot of like swag hip hop came through, right. And just like luxurious like rap became a thing, and like this is the time of that lifestyle rap. Like we just kind of that 2000s is definitely an era that is overlooked.
It was a very fun
but
time.
It was amazing. So yeah,
it was a very light-hearted period.
But it was also very innovative. Like,
right.
As much like
technology
exactly.
began to boom.
Soulja Boy,
and you began to see the infusion of social media
right.
and branding going hand in hand. So now you have, a rapper used to just be able to drop an album and a couple singles, go on tour, magazine interview, and that was it. Those are the only times you heard from him, right?
Everything was set up.
Everything was orchestrated. Everything was just like set in place, right? Unless they like caught a charge or something like that. But nowadays, as we've seen with the 2000s, social media, technology, now you have people like it's like on demand. People can reach out and touch that person and speak to that person and see what that person is doing and be able to keep up with that person more consistently.
Yeah.
And I think that our ability to access these artists began to really peak into like what it is right now.
And it kind of flipped because it brought more power into the artists because at the same time, like they were controlling when you're seeing what you're seeing
as well.
Exactly.
From that too.
And so I think that people like Soulja Boy took full advantage of that, and we didn't really know how to react to that shit.
Oh yeah, like he was like one of the first artists to actually utilize social media to gain popularity and visibility.
Yeah.
He went through the
first YouTube rapper to pop.
Yeah.
I would say he even expand that point. He showed people how to make money off of YouTube. Like you didn't when you have someone in a whole nother country doing your dance. And it goes, and this little black kid from Atlanta who created that. It's like, wow, there's a reach, there's an influence, there's a marketability to this.
And what I consider now is he was showing like artists how to be professional themselves. Like
how to be
before,
businesses.
Before they were having other people be professional for them. Conduct your bit, do what you do. I'll make you look good. But now it's kind of like, okay, now I'm actually turning the camera on myself. I'm controlling this marketing. I'm controlling what image and what message I'm sending out myself. And so now I have to hold myself to a standard.
And that leads to my next question, because we just talked about who can speak on hip hop, the mouth of the thing basically for the operation theme. But as far as the ears, when we talk about developing and picking talent, what team or what person do we feel like, even throughout the history of hip hop, is like the greatest at doing it? Like what label is the best at doing it, or what team do you feel like is the best at doing it? As far as developing the talent or even picking the talent?
Rockefeller, but they...
Ooh. You mean every iteration of it?
So I forgot this, but Rockefeller was under what parent? Def Jam.
They were partners, right? Or was it...
At first. Later.
Oh, okay.
In the beginning, they had their own imprint under... I think it was like under Republic. Or Priority, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they became a partnership with Def Jam.
Because I really want to actually give that to Def Jam. I think there was a couple of...
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like they've had the most successful, iconic artists under their label.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, like, as far as a record label?
Yes.
Absolutely. Are you asking as far as a record label? Are you asking as
Just
far as like a crew?
In general.
I'm thinking of crew.
I'm thinking of crew.
It could be
I
crew.
was definitely thinking about record
It could be
labels.
crew or like, because, you know, crew can equal a label. Like, for me, I think, and this is my proclamation, I think Top Dog Entertainment will be, at the end of the day, will be the greatest crew / label ever to produce artists.
No.
I don't know. You forgetting about
Dreamville,
Coach K.
bro.
You're
forgetting about
Forgetting about
Dreamville.
Pete Thomas.
I respect Dreamville, but if we want to go roster for roster, tit for tat, they lack in
I mean,
some
you
ways.
must. I think you hyping
Where?
Schoolboy
Where?
and
you wanna
Where?
start-
Isaiah
you want-
Rashad at that point.
you wanna-
I'm lit.
You want to
see
top
I
of the
clear- you
top?
see I clear my shit out so we can-
yeah. What do you want to
Kendrick.
say? So,
All right, so Kendrick Cole.
That's
Kendrick
easy.
Cole,
That's
all
easy.
Easy done. They cancel each other out.
Number 2 is, in my opinion, is Schoolboy.
Schoolboy Boss.
Schoolboy's winning that
I
one.
don't know.
Schoolboy's. I know you don't
Wait.
like Schoolboy.
Schoolboy
I'm not even
Boss.
the biggest Schoolboy fan, but Boss.
Son, Boss.
Did you
Boss
hear that Num
came-
Num Juice?
I heard everything. I hear everything.
Okay.
Right? So Schoolboy Boss, I feel like they cancel each other out.
I can't.
And if they don't cancel each other out, I think that Boss makes more impactful music.
we just
I'll
talked about
give you
Blank.
that. I'll give you that
Did
right
Did you not
there.
talk
Schoolboy
about
Q.
Blank Face?
I did. I did. I give you that.
Is Milky Way or any of and this is no disrespect. I fuck with
Yeah.
Boss, but
That's what I said. They like. I think Boss is a movement. I think Boss is developing a movement
Yes.
around him that he is like a viable number 2. Like,
Yes.
like he's a Pippin.
well, I would say he was until JID.
I was about to say.
gonna put JID
okay,
number 2.
and I had him in the
then
top.
right
I
after
had him in the
Cole
top,
would put
bro.
J.I.D.
When I heard the Never
at number
Ever
2.
story, I was like, he came out the gate and he became number 2 from
All
there.
right, cool. So let's reverse.
Okay.
So let's put Jed. Let's put Jed.
Uh-huh.
Schoolboy Q.
But then he blows JID pulls. Granted, this is very biased because I cannot get behind Schoolboy Q, but I feel like JID blows him out the water. I feel like if we're gonna look for number 2 for Kendrick, I would look for somebody else. I would
J-Rock?
not.
There is no.
I
number-
would definitely put J-Rock.
J-Rock
as
is the only
number
other
2.
Grammy nominated
Yeah.
artist on the roster.
Grammy winning.
Grammy
Yeah.
winning.
I think
Grammy women. Grammy.
I
yeah,
think
that's
that
what I mean.
he is easily somebody that could go toe to toe with JID. I would not put Schoolboy Q.
So TDE only has 3 viable, stamped like.
SZA?
But this isn't go under Ari Lennox.
Right.
Yeah,
And I picked SZA.
And Ari comes actually. Okay. I'm gonna.
We're
No,
not even gonna bring
go
up.
ahead. Go ahead.
I don't.
Oh, you talking about the
So
women?
SZA is a whole movement. She's great. She's
She's a whole mood.
She made the whole
beautiful.
anthem.
She's a whole
You know,
mood.
she gave us a great album, but
Several.
But yeah, she did. She gave us great. She's also like, you know, we all from the same place.
Where's the
feel
butt?
bad. But she
I feel like
vocally is not strong.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Ari Lennox is not only, and they're both writers. So, but the weird that you have, and so they all give us the same things. But Ari Lennox is the singer.
Mm-hmm.
She's vocally superior.
So do you value talent more than songs? As far as like, let's say we gonna get back to this, but
I see the question.
let's say like
your catalog.
like Papoose, great rapper,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or even Cassidy, great rapper. But song like catalog wise, you probably picking someone else who may be lesser of a rapper because they have more songs that you enjoy.
Yeah,
If you have a basketball player who has an amazing jump shot, but he continuously bricks when he needs to hit,
Exactly.
then he's gonna say like such great potential. That's all you're gonna say. You're gonna say such great potential. So that's why you get these battle rappers. You get these all the freestyle MCs that used to be on those DJ Clue mixtapes back in the day. How many of those translated into like commercially viable artists? You only had a select few. So just because you are talented does not mean that just because you can rap doesn't mean you can create a song.
And this doesn't mean Ari Lennox doesn't make good songs.
point.
She makes amazing
but
songs.
there's a ways away from me as far as like I need to hear more. I want to hear more.
She has an amazing catalog, but I don't think people realize it because she's been kept quiet for so long until she was signed by Dreamville. That was recently. But her first project, Foe, has been. I've been following her career for a long time.
See, because I've been following SZA's career from like See SZA Run,
yeah,
to
all
like
that.
you know like
All
all
that.
that, and
Hell yeah.
I've loved her progression.
To Control.
Exactly,
It's been fantastic. It's been a fantastic.
it's been
run.
great. So I can go back.
I mean,
and
like, yeah, because, and what I mean, like I said, like because I've like SZA comes from, like, we all come from Jersey. I've known about her and I followed her music for a long time before she even had anything out.
Right.
But I've also been following Ari, and I will, if I had to like choose between the two, and I,
Like just pure talent.
I like, because both of them can write, both of them are singers, both of them give us great vibes when they when they offer music, but Ari is like she's vocally superior.
and if we
look, if you throw these artists in a room with an engineer, catalog of beats, who's gonna come out with the most?
I would have to give it to Ari, because Ari actually plays instruments and she's able to piece together things.
That's what I always lean towards. I lean towards somebody who has more actual artistry more stake in the music.
Right.
Okay, I'll give you Ari, but going in further with that, every good team you judge it not only by its starters but by its bench, and not to disrespect people from the bench, but just like the extended catalog or extended cast. So now we got the big headliners out.
You're still making my point, bro.
Because Dreamville.
Who we going with? Who we going with?
This is why Dreamville wins, because TDE has a shitload of people on their bench.
That dude
Nothing.
work.
Who are we talking about?
Luke
I
Skywalker?
actually on the Culture podcast, I actually talked about this, about how like Dreamville kind of utilizes all their artists.
Everybody
and they don't
gets a
have
shine,
that
bro.
many, but they utilize all of them. Whereas TDE has like that maybe top 7, but then they have like a good like 13 or 14 that nobody really hears from.
And we also talked about this, where we said that Kendrick's star power almost is like damaging to the rest of the roster, because they invest so much in him, and then Schoolboy after that Absol.
I agree with that point.
What happens to Absol?
I agree with that.
What
point.
happens to like?
And I even consider him in
like
that top 7. Like,
and
these are
he's
people
in
that
there.
I'm also considering in top 7.
Is that mostly because of the fact that Kendrick is more of an artist than the label? Like, Cole is the label head too, right? Because he founded Dreamville. Kendrick didn't found TDE. He was more a part of it.
Yeah.
So he thinks of it in the mindset of like, oh, I'm just an artist. Like, when my time comes, I'm ready and I'll go. I don't deal with the business. I let Top Dog, Punch, Dave Free do all that. But with Cole, it's like, I'm running a label. I need to invest in these artists. Like, I need to get on their features. I need to produce something. I need to make sure that, the Shea Butter Baby, when that comes out, I need to have a verse on that, regardless if it's if it's good with or without me. Like, I need to make sure that I'm present with them. Kendrick with TDE is like, yes, I agree, there is a pecking order, and that sometimes is to their detriment, but they have a lot of talent that I like. I mean, Isaiah Rashad is one of the,
and I consider him to be when I think of top, let's give it them 10.
Top tier.
He's
bro.
definitely their top tier artist. I always consider Isaiah Rashad Absol. Like, I'm trying to like Kendrick himself, J Rock, SZA.
Let's not forget Sir.
Sir
there
had
we go.
one of the best
Yes.
R&B albums of the last 5 years, in my opinion. November was great.
So these are the people that we can, off the top of our heads, we can say, but then they also have like 15 people we can barely remember their names.
Luke Skywalker, look it up.
And I don't like.
Look it up.
And
Because niggas completely don't even know who he is.
I know who he is.
I know he is.
Zakari.
Zakari just had an EP that
He
dropped.
did, which was whack.
And it was whack?
It was whack.
I thought it was solid.
It was
whack.
anticlimactic.
It was not what you expected.
Yeah.
After Sir, and you have a male vocalist that comes after Sir, bro.
Yeah, you
Like,
expect
Sir
something.
set the bar. He
But
just set the bar.
Zakari
He's
has
not
been on
the-
hits too,
He's
right?
been on hits, which is why he got signed, which is why he got the opportunity to drop the EP. But as Suave said, it was anticlimactic. It did not meet. So if he's been on this, when he came out with the EP, it did not continue that trajectory up. Sir has always continued the trajectory. Every project.
Her Too was dumb. It was
Her
hard.
Too.
Yeah,
like
that was-
everything that he's done has gotten nothing but better. So when he comes out with November, that's like, bro, like the alarm bells are ringing. Like, this dude is here. I didn't get that from Zakari. I didn't get this guy has arrived from Zakari. That's where I said like
Okay.
he kind of, I think he's gonna fall into the pecking order.
So y'all saying Dreamville? That's the crew.
I'm especially after a couple of discussions with you, I'm gonna give it to Dreamville just for the simple fact they utilize the majority of their artists.
And those artists are successful simultaneously. Remember that. Remember that Jid eats while Boss eats while Cole eats, and they all continue to do so.
That's why I'm not sold.
TDE separates.
I'm not sold that they're eating just
What
yet.
you mean?
Like
Luke.
Okay.
You talk about Land Skywalker. We got to talk about Luke or Omen.
But Luke is talented. Like that West 1996 album was fucking fire.
I'm not saying he's
I
not.
had that shit on repeat for a good 6 months.
But we're talking about the people
Pecking order.
Pecking order.
Yeah.
You got Omen, you got Luke, you got the Earth Gang.
Earth Gang
is probably the only one that I feel isn't being used to their potential. Everybody else though, like when you say these names, I can be like, yes, I know that project. Like I'm telling you, TDE, like when you look at the numbers,
they're top heavy.
It does that looks
They're very
crazy.
top heavy, bro.
Like you got
that.
like 30 people, but only
top heavy
7
as
are
shit.
like.
That's only charting.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Like, what are
Bro,
you doing
they're
with
like,
your other
you know
artists?
what they are, bro? They're Duke right now.
Just the brand. The brand is stronger than the players.
No, they have Zion
They
Williamson.
got a Zion and a Barrett.
They have RJ Barrett.
Okay.
They got a Cam Reddish, and then after that, the other 2 niggas can't shoot. The other 2 niggas, you don't even know who
The
they
other 2
are.
niggas might fuck around you, lose you the game.
Might lose you the game, right? Or don't even pay attention to them. Just focus on those 3 right there, and you good. Kendrick, J-Rock. J-Rock wasn't always like that. Remember,
J-Rock just got here.
J-Rock,
He
Redemption.
been the longest motherfucker in TDE.
Facts. He was a number 1. He was the first artist.
And he thinks
in TDE.
Kendrick helped him out as far as get over that.
I think Kendrick wrote for him in his last album, but that's my opinion.
Nah,
I think he
it's
helped
not
them
a-
get over the hump.
I think he helped him make better songs. Like I think
Yeah.
when you listen to Tap Out, when you listen to Knock It Off, when you listen to King's Dead, like you could tell like Kendrick was like, bro, you could simplify this a little bit more. Give it like
Redemption was amazing though.
I think Redemption was a phenomenal. Like it started off amazing with the bloodiest,
Yeah.
and that was to me.
I
That
think
was like
that's the one of the tracks Kendrick wrote for him. Is the
It
bloodiest.
doesn't sound like.
This nigga's gonna sit here and slander.
exactly. That's what I
No
told him.
disrespect, but I think Kendrick wrote for
I
the
don't.
nigga. But,
I mean, like I can see why you would say that, but at the same time, I'm gonna listen to Redemption again on my way back home. But it doesn't sound like things that Kendrick would write, and I feel like you can kind of tell when Kendrick has his hand in something. Production wise, absolutely.
Okay.
Definitely
Absolutely.
was an
Production wise,
upgrade.
absolutely. Listen to the
song-
bloodiest, and then
I'ma
just
listen
come from
back.
it from that perspective. Be like, did Kendrick write this shit? At least be a little suspicious, and then listen to the bloodiest.
Speaking of listening, let's move on to the ears portion. Who are some artists that we should be listening to now in this day and age?
The women.
Women, okay.
The
I
women.
knew she was gonna come with
I
that
mean,
shit.
okay. Let me tell you something. And this
Not
is,
all the women.
And I have a follow up question.
a
with that too.
majority of them, because for the past month I have been highlighting female rappers specifically on like my social media, and what I realized is that not only are these women like multi-talented, they are usually far better than a lot of the men that
I
we
agree.
are giving space to. So why not give them the bolster them up in the way that we're supposed to?
I think the gift and the curse of being a female rapper in this day and age, or just a woman MC, is the fact that
Nah, son. We just
had a whole
dropped the rules, bro. You can say female MC.
you can
You
say
good.
female
I didn't know-
rapper
I didn't know-
because it,
'cause I know women-
Episode
I know-
40, we chop it up.
it describes. I mean, personally, I would just want us to drop any type of description, but for the sake of this conversation,
Okay.
female rapper is female is just a description of the type of rapper.
all right, cool. Because I know there's a whole big discussion.
Yeah.
But okay, so for female rappers, I think because you have to prove so much, your skills are that sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to keep up with the boys. Because you have to, make good records. Because you have to, look the part, act the part, say the right things. Like it makes you like
Way more pressure.
Way more pressure. And that what makes these diamonds. Because it's like you have to be ready to go at any time to prove yourself. And I think it's not always good because you kind of get tired of that. I know they have to get tired of that.
Oh, there's a woman I follow on Instagram. I mean on Twitter. She's out of Houston, Nezifa. She just said today, she's like, I'm over it. I want to quit. Like she is probably one of the best rappers I have heard in a long time.
You hear that a lot from female artists, like as far as like I'm ready to quit, I'm ready to give up.
Because she reposted a video of Blueface, and she was just like, you know, I was told that
I peeped that
I have to be sexy, you gotta talk about sex, gotta sell sex, gotta do all these crazy things, and now you're telling me I have to rap off beat to make it. She's like, I'm tired.
Yeah, I peeped that shit.
To follow up with that question as far as who we should listen to, since we're on the subject of women in hip hop, do you feel like, specifically you, Uchechi, is it better to be a woman in hip hop now or yesteryears?
That's actually kind of difficult. Mainly because before hip hop went mainstream, women were a really big part. Black women are a really big part of hip hop. I can't remember their names, and that says a lot. But there was a female group who, they didn't put out any records, but they hosted a lot of parties and also did performances for other hip hop artists. And they were the reason a lot of artists came up, like, you know, they were considered to be like one of the first rappers, but they've kind of got lost in the history. And then, you know, not only them, but like, I mean, like you hear about Roxanne Shante and like, you know, these women who came up before we heard about the Nas's and the Jay-Z's, and then hip hop went mainstream and that kind of got lost. But at the same time, now the reason that women are able to kind of utilize social media and get back into hip hop is because there has been a progression in gender equality. So it's a little that's where it's a little weird, because like, but then the thing, I will say this, when Black culture is untainted by white supremacy, gender equality is just common law. It's when it's tainted by white supremacy, by by the white man's touch, you know, for lack of a better phrase. That's when we start to see like patriarchy and gender wars or gender dynamics be unleveled. And that's what happened when hip hop went mainstream. So it had for society wise, being a rapper as a woman is probably better today based on how our society is progressing. Okay. That's the best I can say. But I don't know. Then I don't know. You get deeper as to like what are women expected to do to actually survive within the rap game, and what kind of music they're expected to put out, and who's expected, like, you know, who actually gets play as opposed to who doesn't get play, and then it gets complicated. But
I would say the same as far as half and half. I think it's more of, I think as an artist developing as a woman in hip hop, it was better back then. And I think as far as if you want to make an impact and as far as marketability, it's better now. If you want to, if it's time, like just like the internet opened up doors for everybody, you know, and that's good and bad, you know, as far as, you know, you got so many people that, like, I've heard y'all talk about, like, there's so much music out there now, it's hard to keep up. But there is really good artists still coming out, which means that there's also really good, you know, female hip hop artists, but it's a lot of them. So you kind of want to listen to them all, but, you know, you also have to, you know, still be critical as you would anyone else. And that's kind of like my little, I'm telling you, issue.
Get on my Twitter. I've curated I've curated a pretty good list.
I'll listen, because I was listening to Scotty Beams.
Why do I feel like it comes down to like one basic thing? Like, if a nigga can't comfortably like say your song, like sing your song in the club without having to like look around his shoulder. Basically, if you ain't a stud in hip hop, as a woman, it's hard for you to make it. Like, you gotta be saying some hard shit that a nigga can resonate with, or else it's gonna be hard for you to pick up that same traction. Or you're gonna have to go the long way around the shit. Honestly, if you're a woman in hip hop, you're gonna have to go the long way around. You're gonna have to really prove to us like you can spit, you belong here, or else niggas is gonna feel a little hesitant. DJ's gonna feel a little hesitant playing your shit. Okay, I see you. Typically, you see more niggas. You're gonna see more niggas out. I'm feeling a little, you know, I'm not gonna play this shit just right now. It's not the right time. And then that time, that lasts for the whole night.
Give me an example.
So, Young Ma.
Yeah, M.A. Okay.
Yeah.
Young M.A.
Yeah.
Her shit was popping because for a while niggas was thinking, oh, this is a nigga saying this shit. She talking about getting head, she talking about getting neck, and then there was a little choice things where, and then they started inquiring about who the artist actually is. But you could play that shit anonymously in the club, in a new club, and the shit's gonna break the scene. Like you could play that shit in a strip club and it's gonna break the scene because you don't necessarily know like where they coming from. But now you play some shit like
Megan Thee Stallion's Freak Nasty.
Basically, yeah, or City Girls.
Yeah, and how many niggas is really saying that shit? Like, how many niggas is really getting lost in that shit? Or do they hear that shit off rip and it's like, hold on, this is someone saying this shit. Like, let me get on my nigga shit and be a little bit, whether it's coming from some self-conscious shit or whether it's coming from they got to hold this image up or this standard. Like, I'm not going to be reiterating these words. Like, I'm a nigga, I'm a grown ass man, I'm a real ass nigga. Yeah, and that's hip hop though. Hip hop is covered with that shit. Like, we got to be a nigga about this. We got to be like a grown ass man about this shit. So it's we're a little bit hesitant to co-sign this woman.
Yeah, because I can't count, and it's crazy because I can't count how many times I've rapped along to a nigga rapping about pussy. I'm straight.
You feel me? You kind of think about it, shit. Like, at some point it resonates.
I don't change words. I don't change pronouns. I just go along with it because I mean, it's also, we can also talk about internalized, like how I've had to like kind of close my eyes to a lot of things in order to enjoy hip hop. But like, I've definitely, and that's so funny with Maddie. I'm like, nothing that doesn't say anything about you. So
I know.
You got to consider.
We petty
like,
for that shit.
I always thought it was like, why don't you think of it like R&B? Like when women sing R&B songs, like you don't really think about it. Well, I guess men kind of have their guard down because it's a whole different genre and it's meant to cater. It's mostly catered towards a woman audience. But they could, I guess because there's some records that, you know, whether it's Patti LaBelle or whether it's, you know, Beyonce, like men can like, you know, enjoy it or listen to it. But when it comes to hip hop, it's like, nah, it gotta be this. It gotta be that.
Because it's just like you guys have been saying, there's a lot of misogyny. There's a lot of misogyny that exists in it. There's a lot of inflated egos. There's a lot of masculine energy that has to be maintained because these are what rappers talk about. Rappers talk about me being the toughest nigga in the room. Rappers talk about me being the hardest one on the block. So it's hard for you to claim yourself to be an avid supporter of the culture and then at the same time still be enjoying like this softer shit, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why a lot of artists that come out now, ASAP. Look at the struggle that ASAP Rocky got when he first came out. People, like, he was from New York, from Harlem. He made amazing music, and people like purposefully was like, nah, I'm not fucking with him. Why you not fucking with him? Because, bro,
he don't sound like New York.
You on that pretty boy shit.
Yeah.
That, he got long hair, long permed hair, slim jeans, and he was just like, the shit that he rapped about, like, it just wasn't to their liking. So people felt uncomfortable co-signing. And then we had talked about that earlier where people feel like they closet fuck with you, but in public, me co-signing you is more of an indication on myself, and it's really not. Like, it's really not. And people, we just got to get out of that space, that way of thinking.
It's hard. Even take what you was talking about R&B, like that Frank Ocean song, "Thinking About You." Like, niggas stopped singing that shit once they found out that he was gay.
Facts.
Like, it was a banger until
all of a sudden
found out, like, hold on, is this about a nigga?
Nobody plays Forrest. Nobody plays Forrest.
I would never hit that high note again. I would never try to hit that shit again, ever.
It's like nobody plays. One of my favorite songs on the album is Forrest Gump, and Forrest. What's
Pyramid.
Yes,
Forrest, yeah. And nobody. Pyramid they'll listen to because Pyramid specifically talks about a woman.
Yeah, it's about
strip club.
It's about strip club.
Yeah.
But Forrest Gump,
any gray area we check out at that point.
That song is about a man, and nobody sings it. And it's one of the best songs on the album, but nobody will sing that song because it's like, what? No, I don't. He did a what? No, I actually can't. And I'm just like, it don't mean anything. It literally means nothing. Like, it's literally pronoun placement. That's
I don't know.
all
I can't do it though. I can't do it. I'm guilty.
Okay, and that leads to my next question. Let's talk about the appendix of hip hop. What are some parts of hip hop that we can do without, or we wish, or who are some artists that we wish we could do without?
White rappers.
Just in general.
Damn, white rappers in general.
That's
Shit.
it.
All right, well, fuck 'em.
We don't need them.
Yeah.
I know.
You co-sign that.
I think we need to not get rid of like a purge or some shit, but you know, we need to take power away. You can't get rid of. They're not going nowhere.
We don't need them. I mean,
but you can take. But you can't get rid. You can't.
Can we
get rid of
exclude them? Can
You
we
can't
realistically
them, right?
exclude them?
You cannot realistically exclude them
Okay,
because like
then-
white people are always gonna like when they see a white rapper, they flock.
support.
They flock,
They support.
bro. They flock because they
Yeah.
want a white face in that room.
They want to feel represented.
They
So
want to
then-
feel represented.
This is the only genre of music where
They're not dominant.
they're
I
not-
mean, they make up most of the concert and tour sales, so
that's the only dominant area they make up.
Okay, well then let me put it like this. I think we can, if you want to keep the white rappers or whatever, but I think what basically I want more execs need to be black, more
Yeah.
the people who are behind the desk, people who we don't see, who are making the money moves and making the money
Distribution of
choices,
power.
distributions, people who are choosing artists need to be black, because I don't think people realize what's happening, but there's definitely an erasure occurring within the hip hop community. It's the same thing that happened with jazz, same thing that happened with blues, same thing that happened with country. How a black person create a song and will pass it, and they'll give it to a white person in order for it to be sold. And hip hop is still young enough where we can avoid that in a way that I don't think, and because we can see it, and in a way that I think many of us were afraid to do when it was happening with jazz and blues, because legally, like, we couldn't even get played on the radio. This is completely different now. We actually have that decision. We own,
we own the shit.
Yeah, so I think that's
Own it, baby.
I do think, though, excluding white rappers from here on out definitely plays a part in making it clear that this isn't your space.
How did we, as far moving forward, like how did we, like the feat of hip hop, how did we get to this point? So you mentioned we started in the late 70s to 2019. Hip hop is now the most dominant genre in America, and it's only happened in less than 50 years. How did that happen with it at first being considered a trend, a fad, something that was like, oh, it's going to be here and gone tomorrow, just like disco. But now it's dominant, so dominant that, like you said, it's the only space that white America can't really get into.
Because when it first happened, they thought that we lacked sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
They thought that we lacked the means to progress, to evolve, to grow. They believed that it was just us. It was just a kid having a tantrum. They didn't understand that it was deep rooted in our community, that those experiences were shared across communities, whether it be you be in Brooklyn, whether you be in London, whether you be in Chicago on the South Side, whether you be in Watts, whether you be in Houston, whether you be in Bankhead. People did not expect for there to be a unification of the sound, right? They didn't expect that. So when it happened, that's when they realized, like, whoa, this is a real ass thing. Remember that that hip hop started in New York, so it was local. So we don't gotta take it serious. It's local, but then when it begins to, it becomes infectious. Oh, y'all doing it? You doing it? Oh shit! Y'all
Went over
doing
to
it?
LA.
Like, you know
all
what I
of a
mean?
sudden, yeah.
Now all of a sudden, now everybody is on the same wave. Oh, I see they doing their thing. Let's put on for our city. And then once that happens, it's a revolution. It's a movement.
Would you agree with the statement, this is for everybody, that the black experience is the most American experience?
Yes.
Damn. Yeah.
Nigga just
point.
took him to
Absolutely.
church.
Well,
Took him to church.
because when I
It's
thought
the
about
most
and
authentic experience.
Because without the black experience, there would be no America. That's how this country was built off of the black, was built
Well,
off of black, literally built off of black bodies.
the American dream, and when I break it down, it sounds like the black experience. Like when immigrants come into this country, not obviously we didn't come, but like just holistic, let's generalize. Immigrants come to this country, you work hard, you get where you need to go because of your hard work. That's what America's dream is. Like you can make it, it's the land of opportunity. As long as you have a good work ethic and a good person, you can make it. And the hardship of black people, it has been that. Like, you've seen the ones who've made it, the Oprah Winfreys, the Jay-Z's, the Beyoncé's,
Steve Harvey's.
You can make it, but we don't get classified as the Americans that get promoted or marketed when it comes to this, selling this dream and selling this, just lifestyle, because we
are not meant to be. We are not in the brochure, bro.
It's because there's a hard, so like for immigrants, you come here, and this only works for white immigrants. I always tell people to read this book called The Warmth of Other Suns. It's basically a book about the Black migration from the South, the second wave of talks about the first migration of people from the South, but it specifically kind of like gets really into that second migration of Black people coming up from Florida and Georgia, Louisiana. And what it does is kind of explain shows the similarities between immigration and migration, but then shows where the dream stops for Black people and where it continues for white immigrants. So you work hard, you come to America, you work hard, you lose your accent, you assimilate, and then you make it. But the differences for Black people, even Black immigrants, is that eventually you can't do what white immigrants do or even what Asian immigrants do, and that's utilize your skin color to assimilate into white American culture. And that's why we don't get lauded as people who make it, because we're not supposed to. Our Blackness is the hard stop. You have made it up here, you've gotten past the Dixie line, Black. But you're still Black, and this is where it stops. And that's where we see how housing discrimination enters into the story, how job discrimination enters the story, because it's like, oh, we're not the South, we're not going to beat your ass the way the South does, and we're not going to lynch you, but we are going to keep you, we're going to redline this area, we're going to keep you from buying this house, getting this job, become systemic.
Gentrification.
Absolutely.
And shit, Airbnbs is the new housing discrimination.
Absolutely. So like when you liken that to music, that's why I said that Black experience is that experience is what created hip hop. And so for, going back to your question about like where, why it's been able to become what it is in the past 50 years, along with like, one thing white America has always realized is the dollar power of Black people, and wanting to build off of that and wanting to exploit that. So when they saw that hip hop was like, hitting all corners of the states and then also hitting all corners of the world, I think some of them were like, there was this whole movement to destroy it. This whole, you had politicians going out of their way to make sure that hip hop wasn't listened to. You had towns who would ban it from their radio stations. But then there was also the business people who were like, we can make money off of this. If we put the right face in front of it, we can make millions off of this. And that is what has been, that's when it went mainstream. And that has kind of sustained this $1 billion industry that hip hop is. And not only that, the money thing, hip hop is not just music, it's also a culture. So we're living it. It's the experience of like Jay-Z and growing up in Marcy Projects. It's the experience of Rick Ross. Let me run that back. It's the experience of like somebody like Wale, who was an immigrant, who lived in DMV and had to experience the immigration, living the immigration life, but then also living the Black American life, and having feet in those two worlds. And that's the experience that pushes it forward. So I was gonna say Rick Ross, but his music doesn't actually match his lifestyle, so it doesn't match the world that he was living in. So
well, I'm glad we kind of talked about that, because it's like it's bittersweet to me, because I agree with y'all. The fact that we've kind of it's the sustainability of hip hop that's made it what it is today. Like how many people, how many communities it resonates with. But it's bittersweet with me because we're still in that struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the stories we hear today, how they express their hardships, their struggles, like that's the same shit we was going through. So as far as we've come, and as far as we've come, like to be able to monetize kind of that experience in a certain way, at least a handful of people, as a whole, we're still in that hole. So yeah, the genre is gonna keep carrying on, but I'd like to see it carry on in more of a Jay-Z 4 for 4 for 4 type shit, rather than a struggling Wayne, struggling young NBA type shit, where niggas have to hustle to make it to this lifestyle, or have to put themselves at this risk just to make it in this, make it in this this genre, or
and that's
in this day and age.
And that's the point that I want to get to, as far as you touched on too, Uchechi, as far as the undervaluement of certain artists or just certain people, demographics. Who do we today feel like is the tailbone, or the person who doesn't really get represented the most in hip hop? Or it could be a specific person, or I know you talked about a lot of female artists, but like, is there any is there any other artists that we feel like is like, man, they should be celebrated more, they should be lifted up more?
Man, Wale, man.
Wale for you?
Yo, and it's crazy because I just got back into liking Wale. I had written him off.
I know how you are with how you be writing.
Like, I ripped that nigga off. I think it was like 2000 and it was when he put out his Pretty Girls video.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of us wrote.
And we were like, and I was just looking at like, this video has no, what the fuck? And then I was, and
this
then
video has no Air Max or no.
I was just like,
Wale
but then then his response to it just really frustrated me, and so I was just like, oh, okay, you don't need my money, you don't need my, listening, whatever. And I wrote him off, but he has consistently given us really good projects.
He might be, I say him and Big Crit, as far as like artists who consistently have if you really go
facts,
man, Saha,
no
sleep.
dope on Sunday.
Come on,
if you go through some of these artists' catalog, you be like, that
damn,
was a really good, like,
know,
they could do an hour
right
of a concert. You be like, I'm still rocking with them. And like, even with Wale's Shine album, I really feel like that was a really good album. I just think it was marketed horribly.
It was marketed terribly. It's very.
It was his singles. That was really what did it. His singles.
It barely, even the singles barely got play. And I remember, and that's how I even found out.
Was it fashion show?
It.
No, he didn't choose fashion show. It was the one with Wayne.
Yeah.
It was one with Wayne.
But then the joint with G-Eazy, fashion show.
Yeah, it was G-Eazy too.
I actually fuck with fashion
I actually
show.
did fuck with. I actually also fuck with
But
fashion show.
and that should have been like either Lean Siegel or the there was another record that I could easily hear like a 21 Forever.
He had PYT on
Yeah.
it? He had
PYT was on that, and PYT was actually really good. I think that's when I started being like, oh, Wale can probably.
I think he should have dropped Fine Girl. This shit.
Is that the one with Chris Brown?
No, Fine Girl is the one with Davido.
That
the Afrobeats artist.
There was also another Afrobeats. He did a song with I think it's called Shine. Made the album name, and it was like Major Lazer, Wizkid. It was a really good song, and
I think that's the one I was thinking about.
Yeah, and I don't recall it ever really being played anywhere, but I do remember PYT because there was a video for it. I think it's when he started redeeming himself. Like, I was like, okay, Wale has learned, and so like that's when. But I think Wale definitely isn't being given the due. He's incredibly talented, and I don't think he gets the due, and that's why he was like on Twitter for so long, like being pissed because, and I get it now.
I'm gonna have to give it to Big Crit. I'm gonna have to give it to Crit.
I feel you on that.
Crit.
He's been the most consistent artist.
Been consistent,
and he produces his stuff too. And that,
man, like
he should be up there with the Coles,
everybody
Kanye's.
is not gagging on Cole. Everybody's on Cole.
That's because he came back after some.
Yeah, I'm saying
he was disappointed with his last one.
But just,
I think
who?
The public was disappointed with For Your Eyes Only.
Oh,
the public.
I thought you.
You talking about KO? You thought you was talking about KO?
I thought not even that. You can't be disappointed with KO.
I don't want to.
But I can.
I'm talking about For Your Eyes Only. What y'all? That met y'all expectations.
That's like
yo, you about to start a whole nother episode.
I was gonna say that to me.
I actually do not want to talk about this.
I was gonna say to me that album should have been called For Your Ears Only.
What?
I think that was for only him.
That's my favorite album from him. I don't.
That's your favorite album?
Yeah,
oh my god. Yeah, we might need to start
as a real fan.
What is this, Jackie?
I feel as a real fan, if you are a true fan of J. Cole, you completely received that album entirely. I do.
Spoken like a true Cole.
Whatever.
I'm a Cole fan, and so I fucked with more songs than I didn't. But that doesn't mean I was not disappointed. Like, I thought he was coming. Because he released some, I feel like he released something.
He released a couple of
it was
freestyles.
The
that was kind of like hyping it up, like talking shit. Like,
he was coming at Kanye.
If you ain't coming with some heat,
he was getting KOD energy.
Yeah, that exactly. And he released For Your Eyes Only. That's what fucked me up.
My thing was
don't talk it up, nigga.
He talked about Kanye a lot in those
released
freestyles,
that
right?
shit.
It's like you lost your sauce and all that. It's like you ain't who you used to be.
That shit was fire, bro.
And it was. But then he made a song called Folding Clothes, and I'm like.
Folding Clothes is a lot deeper though. That it took me a minute, bro. Folding Clothes is a lot deeper than I thought, bro.
You can't come at someone with Kanye's catalog and say,
Niggas can resonate with folding clothes because
I
it
can
was
resonate
about
with-
it was about a woman who's going and doing her shit, and you being a nigga sitting there like,
but
damn,
he was talking about all
I
of
don't
them.
have a
Yes,
job. I
because
can't
you
do
know what
shit
it-
but
because-
fold
alright,
clothes for her.
let
Like
me-
I'm gonna have to.
You
can I
niggas
play
ain't
what
shit
part?
until all of a sudden there was actually a whole thread like a couple years ago
That
on
nigga started a
on
whole nother-
Instagram or Twitter, but there was basically this man folding clothes is basically, or this man, I don't know who took it off of who, but this man was on Instagram, was talking about like how he got his girlfriend in his life. All of a sudden, like his sheets are being changed every day. He understands now, like all of a sudden he got towels in his black bathroom he not allowed to use. Like he know how to use an iron now. He be seeing his shit ironed. There's actual like there's shit in his drawers now. She got him using a loofah, like things like that. Like she just elevated his life in ways that he's just like, yo, I didn't even know these things existed.
He walked into Bed Bath and Beyond. It was
Yo, in his
amazing.
own home, and he's just like, and then folding clothes is literally that, like, is like about basically how, and we can discuss like the gender dynamics of this, but like how women really do elevate a lot of men, like. All of a sudden now, like, your health is better. I mean, 21 Savage said it about Amber Rose. She got him eating vitamins, like, things, and drinking water. I was just like, nigga, drinking water. But, like, that's how a lot
Nigga
of...
don't live. The fuck?
So, but, like, that's how a lot of men, like, that's how, because they don't feel the need to do certain things. And all of a sudden, this woman enters his life, and she's like, okay, like, when was the last time you changed your sheets?
So speaking of that, you talk about women with men and giving them a sense of direction. What kind of direction do we feel hip hop is going? Who are some of the people who are controlling or influencing that direction? That's basically the eyes, the vision. Who has the vision for where it's going? If you could pinpoint somebody, or just where you feel like the culture, the sound, either sonically or
Drake, being Drake, the usual suspects. As far as driving, like they're if I really had to, compare it to like a vehicle. They are the passenger. Like, I mean, they are the driver behind the wheel, right? Because they choose where we go. Like, their sound sets the destination for a lot of other people who come after them. But I feel like the motor and the things that are inside are a lot of artists that don't get as much recognition. Like, you look at the Sabas, you look at the Jids, you look at the Mick Jenkins, you look at the No Names, you look at you look at the Little Sims, you look at all these people that are coming up. And you see that lyrically, they're pushing the envelope. They are driving it forward. You can see them beginning to blossom, but they just haven't broken yet, right? They haven't broken through the superstardom aspect yet. And until they do that, we won't put them in the driver's seat, because that comes with pressure. Because now you're taking a coach on your back, and you're going to be the champion for it. Whether you want to or not, we're going to make you that champion for it. You're going to be the face of it. And, that just comes with the responsibility. But, yeah, when it comes to people who are driving the culture, I mean, it's the usual people.
I got two things for that. For one, this is just me, just when you said No Name, I would love to hear a No Name Wonder Girl project. Like, if Wonder Girl was just doing the beats, No Name just being the artist, I think that would be a dope collaboration. I think Wonder Girl is very underrated. And could be, if as good.
I don't know how. Did you hear an episode on her?
And that's why I really like what y'all said. And I feel like she's either as good or if not better than like a Tay Keith. Like, I think if you really go through the catalog, like, she got records.
If you listen to Tay Keith, he has like 4 sounds.
I'm gonna, what's so funny? If I was to put No Name with
5.
a producer that's a woman, I would put her with Linnell Grant, who is Toby Wigwe's producer. Toby Wigwe out of Houston. Linnell Grant creates sounds that I think No Name would thrive over.
But I want to hear something out of No Name, like
out of her element.
Out of her element, and because to me, I love what she's doing, but I kind of like that Kanye, where it's like you don't know what to expect from. Like I want to hear you on different sounds. Because I think she's actually way more talented, even with the stuff she's even presented to us, which says a lot. And number two, to what you were saying, how long do we think Drake's run can last? Because he's been running for a minute.
Forever, my nigga.
I was about to say,
stop?
it's probably going to be till
gonna
he
stop,
die.
bro. It's not going to stop, bro. Whether, I'm telling you right now,
Till he dead.
Drake is going to be Jay later.
Do you think he'll be
Not
I
now.
think he has more longevity than Jay.
I mean,
where's Jay going? We still want albums from him. So.
no, we still do.
Yeah, that's a good point. If Drake don't find somebody like Beyonce, like Drake's choice in woman I think it has to be an artist if he wants the longevity of Jay-Z, because to some certain extent, there's a lot of eyes going towards Jay-Z because of a lot of his collabs with Beyonce.
He was opened up to a whole new audience when he married.
It's like marrying royalty.
Yeah,
exactly. But the only artist like that is like a Rihanna, or
he fucked that up.
And yeah, he messed that up with the baby mama situation. And it's just like, because for me, it's like the reason why I asked that question as far as how long could his run last is because everything that was supposed to stop it didn't, and it kind of even fueled him even more.
Well, he continued to reinvent himself. Remember that no project sounds
the same.
Every project he may use the same type of producers, but in terms of the little things that make it tick, like when you listen to More Life, that's completely different from when you listen to another one of his records. Like they all sound completely different. He raps about the same shit.
That's what I was going to say.
That.
When you were
I didn't say that his content changes, like his rhymes do not change, but the way he presents them to you does change.
And I think Joe Budden said this. I think 40 has gotten better as a producer than Drake has gotten better as an artist.
Absolutely.
Drake has definitely is pretty much the same.
Yeah, he's the same song.
Yeah, he hasn't. He just gives us different genres every album, which is true. Nothing was the same. Sounds nothing like Views.
I mean, Views was probably the closest to having a repeat that he's ever had.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, shoot, he fucked me up with that intro. That's when I was like, all right, well, then he's setting this shit off a little different then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over Drake. I'm done with Drake, and I was somebody that loved Drake, and I'm quite over him right now. But I think as market-wise, he's going to be here for a long time. He's very marketable. He does, outside of this situation with the baby mother, he doesn't really do much in the public eye that causes him to be like, thrown. Well, I don't know. He's
infamous or anything.
He needs to be careful with these young girls. I don't know what's happening.
He was rubbing on Shorty.
You talking about when he was?
No. There's a couple of things that has been like. I mean, his friendship with that girl from like Stranger Things. Yeah, 11. And like he's getting a little hairy with
the
stuff.
A dumb motherfucker if he get caught up with that Stranger Things.
But
girl,
the thing is with like stardom, people forget how easy
boundaries.
It is to lose everything and forget boundaries. And we know, and he seems like he's real comfortable with Hollywood. And Hollywood is Holly weird. Some people decide to step away.
Make shit
I would think
normal.
with the whole Pusha T thing, it'd be like you need to stay in your area.
But I think his being able to like using Pusha T's the situation with Pusha T as a way to kind of like push him further. It makes I think Drake thinks he's untouchable.
You over Drake though? So if Nice for What playing and you lit as fuck in the club, you ain't going.
I wouldn't go off. I didn't say that. I just said him as an artist. No, I still play Nice for What. Still play Nonstop. But him as an artist, I'll never go out of my way to be like, when's the next Drake album? I don't care.
Oh,
okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
So moving on.
Hold on. Let's not move on yet because I still got my artist. The artist that we need to pay attention to, Kodak Black, man. I've been getting on board with them. This nigga, listen, everybody for some reason he just got this label of being some dumb Florida nigga
because he does dumb shit.
Or you know what his?
But listen to his album. Is he not the voice of the streets?
But it's hard for me to get to that place.
Is he not the voice of the?
You're not the first. You're not the first person to say this. You're like the fourth or fifth person.
Okay, well then we start this. Let's have this out here.
Yeah,
I tell him the same thing. I tell him the same thing. I'll be like, bruh, I like his songs, but the package that he like of him it's like.
I wish we could
separate.
To do better.
Can you separate the artist from the music?
You cannot.
In this day and age.
Well, what y'all mean? What has made y'all lose hope?
For Kodak?
His young MA situation right now? The shit that he got going on with Lil Wayne.
He wanna fuck. What's up?
The shit that he got going on with Lil Wayne's daughter.
Hold on.
The whole Lil Wayne situation.
She said some shit off the wall and he had to respond. He's a young nigga. He can't help it.
He said it first.
Let's not believe he's not even 21
and
yet.
she told him to mind himself.
He's not even 21. He's 19.
And this is why I said I need his team to do better because I give Kodak Black the space of being young. right? But I am tired of this excusing black men as using women, their misogyny, particularly in misogynoir, as a way to grow up and grow out of. I don't want to give that space anymore. So yes, he's young, but I'm not excusing him anymore. And I'm not excusing his team. They need to definitely like take him in, reel him in, and let's figure this out. Because what happened with young M.A. is dangerous. It's not just him wanting to fuck a stud. It's him looking at her and not viewing her as somebody with autonomy over her own body. That's very problematic. And that's how...
From a marketing standpoint.
From a marketing standpoint, and not only that, from a humane standpoint, because there are black women who are being killed every day for saying no to a man. I am tired of Kodak Black talking out his ass.
It's hard, but think of what genre. Think of the day and age. Like, it's hip hop. Is that not one of the pillars of hip hop?
What is?
Misogyny. Period.
I'm not going to rest on that pillar no more.
You don't got to rest on it, but can you accept it?
No, because that means that's resting on it.
So with misogyny, would you agree with the misogyny being
misogyny is absolutely a part of current hip hop? Yes, absolutely. It did not start that way, though.
And with the direction of where hip hop is and where it could be going, and this could be like one of the last points. How can either do you expunge it, or do we kind of try to teach it? And I know as a woman, it gets tiresome to always have to teach. But like Swaff is saying, is like it's so much a part of it that it is a growing thing in hip hop. Like you had the Jay-Z in the early 90s, 2000s, and he had to get all the way to 2019 to get, or 2018, 2017 to get a 444. He had to be 40 something to get. Anyway. So it's just like it had to take him that long to be like, oh yeah, I do love my wife, like that Chris Rock movie. It's like it's just like how can we? Will it get better?
Stop it. I think the first thing to any of these things, the first step to any of this stuff is stop accepting it. Like when something like Kodak Black happens, yo, bro, like what the fuck?
Is that cancel culture, or is that just? I
don't because cancel culture.
It doesn't work.
I don't believe in cancel culture. I think you should. No longer support people who are a detriment to society in a way that is harmful to their people. But at the same time, every time somebody does something, I'm not gonna be like, that nigga canceled, because I know this is controversial to say, but Black Twitter does not have as much power as they could if they would address things in a particular way. I think the whole cancel culture is. Anyway, but the point is, somebody like Kodak Black, what should have happened was that somebody would have been like, enough men should have been like, yo, that shit was foul. And it's not okay. Yeah. I think it's just the first thing is just don't accept it. It's not okay. It may be a part of it. It doesn't have to stay like that forever. Nothing is stagnant. There's culture changes. Tradition moves.
I think that's part of our problem, though, is that we are willing to accept Kodak, but you can't accept him without that shit. And so when we say, all right, I fuck with Kodak, now it's as if we embody everything that this nigga stands for. And that's not the case. Like, there are some certain shit he says I cringe. Like, even at one point, he was like, like, I ain't a stud, but I stay strapped up. Like, I'm like, ugh, all right, whatever. Like, what's the next bar type shit? But at the same time, like, the real shit he does say, he's not, to me, he strikes me as not one of those artists that's really, like, caught up in, like, the glamour of being in the struggle, because there is a certain glamour to it. Like, if you came from this and now you're here, like, you want to glamorize that struggle. He's not doing that same shit. He's more so, in my eyes, I think he's more so just like talking about it as if it's damn near a memoir. Like, this is the shit I've been through. Like, this is what makes me this fucked up jewel you see right now, but nonetheless it's a jewel. Like, I'm giving you my perspective. Nonetheless, it has some flaws on it. Like, he's not a diamond. This nigga's a shit.
Still a coal. Yeah. I mean, that's Rubik's zirconia. He's struggling. Yeah. That's another thing I recognize. I think him also experiencing anti-black. People are always calling him ugly. People are always saying crazy things to him, and I think that's unfair. I don't think that's necessary. I think there's a way to admonish without having to subject somebody to the same thing you're admonishing them for.
Fair. So, well said.
Well said. And with that, we could probably talk another hour
I
or two
know.
about all this.
Hold on, I do want to just kind of wrap it up though. Like, if we could, because I was looking at this like personifying almost all these shits. Like, we was playing the game of Operation, hip hop Operation. The eyes, the backbone, the mouth, the ears. If y'all can, like, top of your head, that's where I really know where your heart lies. One artist that personifies this shit. Like, if I had to tell you the backbone, mine's Wayne. Who is the backbone of hip hop for you? And that's and you can give the definitions if you want to, just to recap.
Backbone as far as foundation, I would say, I want to say Nas. To me, yeah, I'll say Nas. What about y'all?
Hove.
I don't fuck with Hov like that, but I'm gonna have to give it to him because he essentially embodies everything that hip hop is currently: the business side, the music, and the culture.
Yeah, had the struggle, had it all.
Everything. He's gone from
did his wife dirty. She kept him.
Yeah.
What's next?
True nigga fashion.
Yeah.
What's next?
The mouth. Who can speak for this culture? I got Meek Mill or Nipsey Hussle.
Nip.
I got Cole.
I'm gonna go with Kendrick.
Okay.
Kendrick. Okay. Next up was the ears. Who would be assigned to hear that next, or who would we appoint to hear the talent? Who can really pick them out of the best of the bunch?
Cole.
J. Cole.
I'm gonna go with, and I know she hasn't. I guess I think she may be still developing an artist, but her history speaks for itself. I'll say Missy. I really like how she's helped a lot of artists get to the point where they are now, songwriting wise, or even just getting on a track with them. But I think Missy has a really good ear.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna give it to Kanye because he got two of my favorite artists in that bitch, Big Sean, Sci-Hi.
Okay.
And shit, he brought Pusha T on that motherfucker too. All right, next one was the hands. Who's really molding hip hop? Who's forming it? Who has a say, like influence on the genre? After this, we just got a couple more.
I would say Jay-Z. He's been, especially these last few years, he's had his hand in everybody's progression.
Okay. And lastly, last but not least, I was gonna say the heart of the shit, and we can just do one quick one. I'm saying again with the shit, Kodak. Goddamn.
Nah, I'm gonna have
Fuck out of here, man.
Nah. I'm gonna give it to. Like I said, I'm gonna give it to the women rappers because without them, we wouldn't. Hip hop would be
Kendrick.
dead. So yes, I'm gonna give the heartbeat to the women.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm not even gonna say shit about that, even though it is no disrespect. I do feel that
I'm actually
power.
gonna give it to Trina.
I do feel that power.
I'm gonna give it to Trina especially. Trina has given us artists. Trina has given us consistent albums. Trina has given us a whole culture. Not only that, Trina has also offered us the space for other women to exist in any which way they want, like Missy has. So it goes to Trina.
And with that declaration,
Real talk though.
I want to thank you all for the Run the Tape podcast for collaborating with us. Great conversation, and I hope to hear more from y'all soon.
Yeah, I want to hear y'all sound off one more time. Who we got with us today? Run the Tape.
Comfy Cozy. You know what time it is. One half of the Run the Tape podcast.
This is Uchachi Chinyere, the other half of Run the Tape podcast.
And this is No Disrespect.
Soft in the building. Appreciate y'all.
Peace.
Thank you.